You are listening to Salty Believer Unscripted, a conversation on Christian ministry and the Christian life.
This is Salty Believer Unscripted. I'm Josiah Walker.
And I'm Brian Catherman.
Salty Believer Unscripted is a podcast for the Christian and the Christian journey. Our purpose and the goal and aim of our podcast is to help equip you to follow Christ and to grow in your faith as you seek to know Him more and be more like Him as He's working through you each day. And so along that line and with that thread in mind, on today's episode, we want to talk about a resource that we've both found really helpful for us personally and in our ministries that we think will benefit you as well.
I think the whole way you just laid out our vision and mission sounded like a whole resource. That was very robust, and I think more than you've ever said it, I'm impressed.
Well, I really wanted to lay the foundation there so that when I say in this podcast that I'm recommending a better podcast,
that's fair.
There's some weight to what we're doing here.
That's very fair.
But Brian and I are not fools in believing that we're the only podcast out there or that we're the best podcast out there. But when we find good podcasts and good resources, we want to just share those with you to help you grow.
That's right. And I think the only thing we have going for us is we might be pushing some of the longest running podcasts.
Sure. Yeah.
Then still going. Longest, but otherwise, quality, I don't know. Okay.
Tenacity, man. There we go.
What podcast are we talking about?
We're talking about 9 Marks podcast, Bible Talk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, I think we should probably provide some clarity. 9 Marks has a few podcasts that are something talk. So they have Bible Talk, Preacher's Talk, Counseling Talk. They probably have
Priscilla Talk for women.
Priscilla Talk. Pastor's Talk. Did I mention that one?
Yeah.
Talk.
Talk.
I don't know.
Talk.
They have a bunch of them, but we're talking about Bible Talk.
Yeah. And remind me, I'm drawing a blank, of course, because we're talking about it, but the host of Bible Talk.
So it's Alex Duke is the host, and he works for 9 Marks. And so, okay, we should probably just put this out there. There are 2 guys with PhDs who are excellent, fantastic brothers, really smart. And then Alex Duke, who's really smart, but he's actually really entertaining, and he brings the podcast around. He's a solid guy.
If I could be so bold, Alex is the Josiah of that podcast.
But I'm not the Jim Hamilton of this podcast.
I don't know.
Or the
you might be the Sam Amati. Come on now.
Sam Amati's impressive, man. These are the guys that are involved in it. So it's Alex Duke, who works with 9 Marks and who does have a seminary degree, I think. Yeah. But by his own admission, I think might have got a D in Jim Hamilton's Hebrew class or something. Yeah. We've listened to this podcast. And then you have Jim Hamilton, Dr. Hamilton. He's a professor at Southern. He's written some, I'm trying to think of the list of the books. I know Typology is one I just recently read, and that's a complicated monster, but it's a really helpful book. He's written some commentaries on the Psalms. He's written the, what's the Salvation and Judgment book? That's
Salvation and Glory Through Judgment, or Through Judgment and Glory.
Yeah, so he shows how the gospel actually works through judgment and their salvation, and then I forgot the title of the book. And then
we bring the unscripted to unscripted. Are you
Googling it while I'm stalling? And then he has another one that's like, what is biblical theology? And it's a little thin book. It's got a picture of the guy with the apple over his face. That's a very helpful book if you don't know very much about biblical theology.
What is biblical theology is a great intro book. And then God's Glory in Salvation Through Judgment is kind of a beefier version that expands on those same principles.
Kind of textbookish.
Yeah. But what I love about Bible Talk, and the reason we're wanting to share it with our listeners today, is because we believe that God's Word changes us. It changes who you are.
We didn't get to talk about Sam Amati, man.
I'm sorry.
Poor Sam. Oh.
Sam Amati, who is a great guy, all in just being the brother of Matt Amati, who is a brother pastor with me here in Utah, serving in the mission field.
So Sam Amati also has a PhD, worked with Matt Amati. I don't know if he's ever really served as a professor. He probably has. He's a pastor at a church, and he is a biblical theology guru. And so he has written some pretty good material, some remarkable material. He works with 9 Marks. And, just for the heck of it, since we've had Matt Amati on this podcast, we should probably say that the other brother, and I don't think it's by any means the lesser, maybe the greater, is Matt Amati, who's also written some great books, and he has a really good book about Melchizedek in the biblical theology, the new, whatever that series is. But if you look up Matthew Amati, and he's written some stuff with 9 Marks too. But the guys on the podcast are Alex Duke, Jim Hamilton, Sam Amati.
Yeah, Sam Amati has written a lot of the church question books. And I think he's also helped in the ones that Matthew Amati wrote a church questions book too by 9 Marks. But the commentary series is the New Studies in Biblical Theology. And I think both
Yes.
of them have written some of those books.
Matt Amati, by the way, Matt Amati's book. I forgot the title. It's like Kingdom something. Kingdom. He wrote one on Melchizedek, or maybe a priest. I can't remember the title. I read it though, and it was incredibly helpful. I have it digitally. I have it in Accordance Bible software, so I can't remember the
Nice.
title because I did. You don't see the cover, but man, that thing was awesome. And then Sam Amati has done some really good work in that too. Plus the stuff they do with Nine Marks. Those
Yeah.
brothers, those guys are some solid
Yeah.
dudes. I love
Well,
those
they're studs.
guys.
Yeah. So follow them, pick up their books, and listen to their podcast, right?
Yeah.
Because what I love about their podcast is it is a helpful tool in understanding the Bible and reading the Bible better. And I listened to it because you, Brian, turned me onto it and kind of shared what you were doing as far as using that to help in your devotional time. You want to share a little bit about that?
Well, I started to just listen to it, and so I went through, the Genesis. So what they're doing is they're taking a couple chapters, sometimes one chapter, sometimes maybe as much as three chapters at a time, and they're working through the Bible, just talking about the Bible. And so they start in Genesis, and it took them a little while to get their footing under them. They in the first few episodes, they're apologizing to each other for like interrupting. They want to add, hey, may I add a comment to that? Which that's the whole purpose of
Yeah.
the podcast. It took
Sure.
them a little bit to really
Yeah.
find their groove. So stick with it for a little bit or jump ahead, but I would encourage not jumping ahead.
If they're listening to us while we're still trying to figure out our group, surely they have the endurance to listen to this while they
True
figure out
story.
theirs.
Very true story.
But go
So-
back to Genesis is what you're saying when they start at the very beginning.
Yeah, at the very beginning. So I started listening, and then I realized at some point, whoa, I need to write some of this stuff down. So I
Yeah.
bought an ESV study Bible with wide margins, so it's like the journaling study Bible.
Love that Bible.
What I'm doing is I'm reading, I'm looking at the podcast and going, oh, these are the chapters they're going to deal with in this episode. Going back and reading those chapters before I listen to the podcast. Then I play the podcast. And as they're going, I love writing some of those notes because what they're doing a lot of times is they're showing the threads of the various things that are happening as they go out forward. So they're showing you what some of this typology looks like, and they're showing you some remarkable connections. The thing that's so helpful though is Alex Duke. I'm in the 1st and 2nd Samuel stuff right now, and Alex Duke will ask the very questions I'm thinking about. So you're like, well,
Yeah.
wait a minute, what about what? And then they go, oh, let's talk through that and let's look at this. And hey, look, note how this. Sometimes they're reading, a good portion of scripture. Sometimes they're just summarizing. But usually, pretty much every episode, I'm writing additional scriptures and I'm writing additional points that create really good connectivity with biblical theology.
Yeah.
That then bleed into other bigger pictures. It's fantastic. I think that's what
Yeah.
you're doing too, right?
Yeah, 100%. I started out listening to it because you had recommended it. So I was listening to it as I'm in the car or getting ready for the day or just working on other tasks here at the church building. And I realized when you shared that you were writing in your Bible that I needed to do the same thing. And it has been so helpful for me because I got a wide margin Bible like you. It's not a study Bible, but I've been making notes in it and writing things down. And I even like printed off some of the resources because if you go to their website, they have different printouts and handouts of all the chiasms that Hamilton sees and everything.
Dude, that guy wrote his book Typology in a chiasm. It is a textbook in a if you want the meat,
Yeah.
you turn to the middle. It's who does that, right?
Yeah.
That guy's a
Right.
chiasm freak.
So they're on episode 151 now. They're in Second Kings, but I started way back in Genesis and was listening to that. And then I'll just put my cards on the table. I pastor a church. We talked about that, Redeeming Life Church here in Bountiful in Utah. And I actually used their episodes on First Samuel to help me in a sermon series I was doing through First Samuel. It felt like I was listening to an audio commentary that was relatable to the everyday person.
I think that's the reason why I like it so much is you have two guys that by themselves could write commentaries and do.
Sure.
Right? Those guys
Heady
are
commentaries, like
heady,
top shelf commentaries.
big commentaries. Talking about things and they're bringing in other things they've read. They'll say, oh, so and so has mentioned this and that, and they're just talking through it. But the value of having Alex Duke take two guys who are talking head commentary, speaking, those guys have so much in their head, and then asking the real questions that people are asking. And then he brings movie references in and WWF wrestling references. Right. He bought a commentary that's that, right?
Yeah, no, I love that because he brings everyday stuff into it. It kind of feels like the John Madden situation where I laugh to myself because he'll talk about a movie that I love and have seen countless times, and one of the guys will go, "What movie?
Oh
What or
yeah, oh
what
yeah.
happened?"
They don't know what
Because
he's
they spent their
talking
entire
about.
childhood just like reading commentaries or something. I don't know because they're so much smarter than me.
It's
Um,
good commentary stuff, and I mean,
so
a lot of it is better than I find in the ESV Study Bible.
Well, that was going to be my next question because you said you bought a study Bible. So are you just rewriting things that are already in your study Bible?
On occasion, they'll say, "Oh, this reference, this is a good, this points to whatever," and I'll look down at the cross references, and oh yeah, let's. And sometimes I'll underline it. I'll make a little note. On occasion, they'll make comments that I see in the ESV Study Bible. Generally, Alex Duke's comments come from the ESV Study Bible, which he then says, they go, "Oh, that's really informative. Thanks, Alex." And he goes, "Yep, that's what my ESV commentary says, my ESV
Yeah.
Study Bible
See?
says."
So that's,
But sometimes, a lot of times actually, I'm thinking, man, the ESV missed
yeah.
this. This is
Yeah.
profound. And the irony of this and the connection of this, and they'll see things. I mean, they'll say, okay, they're using a lot of these guys are also they're familiar with like Simeon trust
Sure.
practices and a lot of just I'm pretty sure that Jim Hamilton studied under Howard Hendricks at
Yeah.
Dallas Theological Seminary. So these guys are like the Bible study masters, just bringing so much out. So what I have is I have my ESV Study Bible along with those two
Yeah.
guys. And sometimes the ESV Study Bible, they'll say, there's a view here that says X, Y, and Z. It could be that. I'm not convinced because of this. And I'll look down and that might be mentioned in the notes that this is,
Right.
and they'll help me understand it even better. The notes are like 5 words, 10 words. Those guys
Sure.
are talking about it for a 45-minute
Right.
podcast.
Yeah. So, and that's what's really helpful is it's just building on top of what's already there. I think a lot of times people walk into their pastor's office and they see a bunch of commentaries and they think, oh man, I need stuff like that. But we've talked in a podcast episode before about how beneficial the study Bible is, and an ESV study Bible is, and the CSB study Bible. And with this podcast and taking some notes in the Bible, you're almost really creating your own study Bible.
Oh, that's exactly right. I'm going back when I'm looking at sermons. If I'm back in any of the passages I've looked at, the whole side margins are just
Sure.
full of notes.
Yeah.
And I also write notes from other studies and some other commentaries, but the greater majority of them are just coming from Bible talk.
Yeah. So I think
It's exactly what you just said.
the biggest encouragement I think that we're really trying to put out there for our listeners today is one, yes, please listen to this podcast by Nine Marks. It's stellar. These guys are awesome, super smart. But two, be diligent about it in buying a Bible that's a wide margin Bible or a journaling Bible or even a study Bible wide margin and take some notes and really interact with the podcast. I think so often now podcasts become something that we're listening to while we're working on 100 other things. But I found that this podcast has been so much more beneficial for me as I'm working through it. Like you said, I read the text ahead of time so I know what we're going to talk about because they don't always read the text in its entirety because they're covering 2 to 3 chapters in about an hour.
Well, and I like to see if I see any of that ahead of time or
Sure.
work at it a little bit. Sometimes it's very rewarding when Alex Duke asks the same question I was asking. Sometimes it's rewarding, which is very rare when this happens. When I see something they bring up, most of the time I'm going, man, how did I not see that? And then the
For
way that
sure.
they share it, it's not like they're just saying, here's some
Right.
fluky thing that no one could get to. You cannot unsee what they show you. This connects to this verse, and now you can see it, and you can never unsee it. And it's so obvious. All I end up thinking is, why didn't I see that?
Right. And you've used a ton of resources. You've been a pastor in ministry for over a decade. You have a doctorate in discipleship. You've got countless commentaries, physical and on electronic form. So you know some of those commentaries can be heady and really technical. Well, this commentary, do you have to have a big theological education
No,
to
no,
follow along with this podcast?
not at all. Because, for example, like one of my favorite Alex Duke's comments was Jim Hamilton was talking about some textual variant, and he's referring to Baba I can't remember exactly how it's pronounced. Baba Bathro 45, a scroll, some famous scroll. I
Sure.
can't remember if that's what it
Yeah.
is. It's probably the wrong one. But anyway, he's saying it. Oh, when we look at Baba Bathro or whatever, and Alex was like, no, 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 no. I don't know what Baba Baba, whatever, Baba Baba.
Sure.
Well, nobody knows what Baba Ba is. He's just like making fun of Dr. Hamilton right in
Right.
the podcast. What are you talking about? And then he has to like bring it down to a level we can all
For sure.
understand.
100%. And, with all due respect to Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Mahdi, because I think they're great guys, they're smart. I love listening to their commentary. Alex Duke is what makes this thing so
Oh,
awesome
for sure.
because he makes it so relatable with movie references and pop culture stuff and just saying, hey, let's hit the pause button. What is that? Nobody knows what that is.
That guy has a really colorful background because some of his references are like Randy the Macho Man Savage, WWF Pro
Yes.
Wrestling. Another one is like, this reminds me of my favorite movie, The Fugitive with Harrison Ford. You're like, what in the world?
And what's really cool about the podcast is, like I said, they've done like 150 episodes now. They started with just audio, like our podcast, which is great, especially if you have a face for radio like me. But they've partnered recently with Southern Seminary, where Hamilton is, Dr. Hamilton. And so now they've switched and they're doing it on YouTube. So do you watch it while you're taking
I
notes?
have not watched any of them because so here's the thing. In my mind, like this is full transparent confession. In my mind, I really want to believe that they're showing up to this podcast and so they'll talk about Jim's Bible, Hamilton. He'll
Yeah.
have he uses blank old past checks as like bookmarks and he has a bunch of
Yes.
notes. And
Yeah.
I'm not surprised one bit that he's just grabbing his Bible and going for it. At the same time, I want to imagine that Sam Amati has 100 notes all jotted out, 3 Bibles open, and a computer. And Alex Duke has a computer with a whole bunch of stuff. And so part of me thinks if I can just hold on to that in my mind,
Sure.
I'm
Sure.
okay. But the reality is probably this, and that's what I haven't watched. It's probably Sam Amati with the Bible, Dr. Hamilton with the Bible. Those guys just super smart, and then Alex Duke. He comes up with great wording. He's an
Sure.
editor by profession. He
Yeah.
says some really clever things, and I just want to believe that they're all just on the fly, off the cuff. If I see
Unscripted like
them-
ours.
yeah, I want to believe that they're just that smart. But my
Yeah.
guess is it's probably got a little more effort and work goes into it. So I just don't want to. I don't want to pull the curtain back behind the mystery. So I'm afraid if I see it and I don't see all those
Yeah.
Bibles, I'll feel really bad about myself.
Well, even if it's not there for the recording, they're spending countless hours in prep time and different things like that preparing for it. What I really love is that I've got people in my church who are listening to this too and are being filled by it and enjoying it. Alex Duke recently actually wrote a book kind of based on this whole deal.
You
called
bought it,
From-
didn't you? Did you buy
I did
it?
buy it. Yeah, I bought it. I've started reading it. It's called From Eden to Egypt, a guided tour of Genesis. And it basically just builds on everything they talked about in the podcast. I think originally he was going to try to cover more ground, but just realized how beefy it was. But what I love about that book is just like I said about Alex Duke already, is it's just super relatable. I mean, it starts with, I can't remember, either a Jurassic Park or Indiana Jones reference in the introduction of his book.
From the beginning.
Right. I've never picked up a commentary off my shelf that started with a movie reference. I'm like, this guy gets me. Like, he's talking my love language here. And so this would be a great companion piece too, to just really go with the podcast where you could listen to an episode, because I think it kind of lines up with the episodes a little bit, and then read that chapter before bed or at dinner or something, and just really use it as a companion.
I think it's fair though. I'm looking this up right now. So Alex Duke did another podcast that he narrated. I'm looking for it's called A Storm in the Desert. And it's a 5-episode podcast that Alex Duke put together, wrote, narrated. I don't know what all of his credits are on that thing, but he's not making jokes.
No.
It is super fantastic. It is so well done. It's so well written. And so we're making a lot of jokes here about, Alex Duke is kind of the color commentary guy on that thing, and he's really good at it. At the same time, if you listen to A Storm in the Desert by 9 Marks, I actually listened to it because Alex Duke put it together.
Yeah.
I was incredibly, I guess it's a trailer. Yeah, 5-episode deal. It's about mission, the sovereignty of God, sufficiency of Scripture in really difficult places. So I just want to make sure that we're really clear here that Alex Duke is a very talented guy in his own right. He's sitting there in the room with two of the smartest biblical theology guys you could put in the room together, and he's hanging with them. Sometimes he even sees stuff and they go, oh, that's a really good observation. But he's keeping that whole thing going at the same time. So he's doing that. At the same time, he edits books. He's a book editor for 9 Marks, and he puts together this remarkable podcast. He just put out that commentary, and it's got a lot of that color commentary stuff in it. But these are three really talented brothers. I mean,
because he has a degree too. You know,
he went to Southern, right? Because I know he studied under Jim. Yeah. And so sometimes I go, oh, well, it's this. And he'll go, Jim, you know what grade I got in your Hebrew class. Like, you need to explain that to me.
So I hope these resources are helpful for you. Like, our challenge would be to check them out and check out this podcast. Go back to Genesis. The podcast itself is free, so at the very least, you can listen to that. Alex's book, I just looked on Amazon, is $15. The ESV Journaling Study Bible that I bought, that I think is like yours, is $30 on Amazon. So, you don't have to break the bank to kind of get a good study process in place. And just overall, spending time in God's Word every day is just super beneficial for our growth and maturity in the faith.
It's certainly not going to hurt you.
Yeah. So, any other closing thoughts before I wrap us up here?
I just really, if you listen to our podcast and you listen to the Bible Talk podcast, for one, don't do too much comparison. Don't judge us. But two, we'd love to just hear from you and hear how that's been beneficial. And so if you want to reach out to us, we're at SaltyBeliever@gmail.com, or you can find our website, SaltyBeliever.com. But I'm just curious, who's really listening to that? I know a lot of people listen to it, but I'm curious how the people that we're in regular contact with are benefiting from that, because I find it to be an incredibly good resource.
Yeah. So if you're listening to that and find it helpful, let us know. If you've got a great resource out there, let us know what that is. And I hope this is helpful for you. If you're in the Nebraska area looking for a church, Brian's at Trinity Church in Holdridge. If you're in Salt Lake City, I'm here at Redeeming Life Church in Bountiful, Utah.
If you're in the Nebraska area and in the middle of nowhere and see nothing but corn, come out and see me. That's where I'm at.
There's Pastor Brian. But I'm going to just wrap up this podcast in the same way that Alex Duke wraps up Bible Talk, with the verse he shares at the close of their episodes. Psalm 111:2. The Lord's works are great, studied by all who delight in them. Until next time.
Thanks for listening. Salty Believer Unscripted is a production of SaltyBeliever.com. Visit the website to find more resources like the podcast you've just listened to.